The South African Health Products Regulatory Authority has issued approval for local biotech company CapeBio to manufacture the nation's very own PCR test kits. Now, the first batches of kits, which were co-developed with the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, will be available before the end of August. This as authorities are bracing for a possible COVID-19 fourth wave. We're joined now by CapeBio's co-founder, Mr. Ndima. A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Ndima, and I guess congratulations on that. What does this announcement or this approval actually mean? What avenues and gates does it open up for you to do?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. I think this outcome, being so widely distributed now across the country is a happy moment for the country. That in the beginning of the pandemic, we struggled to get reagents to manage the pandemic. I think that gave us a little bit of a challenge as a country, I think as a continent. But now, as part and parcel of managing the pandemic, we needed to have our own sort of sourced, localized reagents, which are test kits. So this means that we now are having our own test kits as a country, and South Africa is among nations across the world that have their own sort of test kits. So this capability is a milestone, is a great milestone. I think we appreciate the celebration from all the partners that were involved in this project.
And what type of testing has gone into these kits? What is the success rate? How accurate will the positive or negative be?
Yeah, so these are PCR test kits. And these are gold standard test kits across the globe because they are able to detect whether you have a virus or not. And they are able to tell instantly the viral load that you have so that the healthcare practitioners can be able to advise accordingly. So these are sort of gold standards. They are not rapid test kits, which are normally used as part of monitoring sort of population, how the virus is spreading. But they are more of highly valued sort of products that are used globally. So when you travel, you need a PCR test. Even when before you are admitted to hospital, you have to be tested. So these are highly accurate products. They are approved by our health regulatory authority, which looks at international standards, meaning they are the same standards as the international ones that we've been using in the country and across the continent.
Will they be used for travel and be acceptable for travel purposes internationally?
Absolutely. When you get to an airport or when you cross South African borders, you have to present your PCR test certificate. So these reagents or these test kits are used exactly for that. But they also are used by, in the healthcare facilities and pathology laboratories where you have to check whether you have a virus or not. And they work hand in hand with vaccinations because one has to test, to make sure that they don't have a virus. And also one has to vaccinate to ensure that they have a best defense mechanism against the virus.
There's also the issue of which strain of COVID-19 one has. Will this test be able to let you know whether you've got the Delta variant or any other variant?
This test kit is simply used to tell whether you have COVID or not. There are other test kits that are in a pipeline that will be responsible for telling whether you have a particular variant or not. So we're still busy making sure that we are able to respond holistically to the current shortages of all other reagents that are associated with the current pandemic.
And where will these tests be available?
So we're hoping that the first batch will be available towards the end of the month, but we're hoping to also scale up production to ensure that there is sufficient supply in the country, but also in the neighboring countries. Hopefully we'll be able to reach the continent quicker.
Will they be available through pharmacies, for example?
No, I have to explain that the test kits are only used by pathology labs, your registered and regulated pathology labs that are that have expertise and skill set for testing. They are not for home use. They are those tests that you normally, when you send samples to a laboratory, you then have laboratory technicians and clinicians that are able to use these test kits because they have to be used with different equipment and machineries. So they are more for laboratory testing. These are sort of test kits that are complementing the rapid test that you could even use yourself at home. Those are still coming. I think there are other manufacturers that are busy with that locally.
And that's a very important distinction, because the assumption here was that one would be able to use these tests at home. So you cannot be able to test at home, but those developments, you say, are still underway?
Absolutely. You can't test at home. So we have been using PCR test kits, during the first wave, second wave, etc. And these are gold standard PCR test kits. These are the test kits that are that are used globally, basically, for testing the virus. There are other complementing test kits, but these ones are mostly for pathology labs and clinicians to be able to test, and they can accurately tell whether you have a virus or not. So you are able to make certain decisions about your health after being tested.
Now, we believe that you are the first company to actually have a product of this nature coming out of the African continent that will be used in the diagnosis of COVID-19.
Absolutely. I think the capabilities that we already had were dictating that we should be able to develop diagnostic kits, not only for COVID, but even for other viruses and other diseases. The capability that came with our partners, the CSIR, was complementing with what we already have as well as a company. So when we merged these two capabilities, we saw that there's a potential for us to actually be able to be key role players in the industry, in the continent.
So having a locally manufactured test kit, how does that influence the system that currently exists now?
It has many layers. I think the current system that is being used, there's no much deviation because the test kits can use the same equipment that many labs already have. So one does not need to buy another equipment in order to use these test kits. So you're going to just deploy them on the same systems that have been used since the pandemic. So and going forward, obviously, we'll be working on making sure that they are more customized, more robust, and they allow the end users to have quicker experimental workflow. It's part and parcel of our innovation. I think as a company and our partners, we have that capability of ensuring that the end users have the best product and the best workflow as possible. But more importantly, because we've been relying on imports, so that means that the South Africa can now spend locally, which is something that I think the government has been advocating for. So we are able to roll out and make sure that we even increase, job opportunities as a company. This answers many questions that we've been asking throughout, the year around the joblessness of many scientists that are sitting at home. I think now we are able to even scale up and ensure that we create more job opportunities. So there's so many layers that this outcome cover.
Mr. Daniel Ndima, co-founder of CapeBio, thank you for that update and congratulations once again on being the first on the African continent to actually develop these type of test kits.